New York Attorney General Leticia James has been accused of mortgage fraud. The evidence is piling up, and even daily callers went to the homes that were supposedly owned by her and that she's supposedly supposed to live in, only to find that she doesn't reside there. Let's take a look at this.
Our exclusive reporting that Leticia James's criminal referral over mortgage fraud allegations. Now, according to the exhibits that were attached to the referral, she claimed that a Virginia property was her primary residence, and that allowed her to obtain a favorable mortgage rate. Well, the Daily Caller News Foundation sent a reporter to that Virginia home.
Hello there, ma'am.
No comment, you're trespassing.
No comment?
Yeah, you're trespassing.
Okay, well, who lives here?
You're trespassing.
Who lives here, ma'am?
No comment.
No comment. Okay.
That sure did not sound like Tish. And Virginia neighbors say they've never seen her there. One telling the Daily Caller News Foundation that whoever is living there is not the lady from New York.
It's James,
Oh,
the Attorney General.
oh, okay.
So that's her house.
So only she lives there?
Her family lives there,
Oh, really? Oh,
but,
okay.
but they have apartments. The C of O should not have changed. It's just,
Well, it's kind of confusing because it says 1 to 4 family, and then it says just 1 family.
on the C of O.
Yeah.
Legal scholar Turley points out that the irony between what she tried to convict Trump for and what she's being accused of. I want you to check out the Ingram angle right here.
Well, obviously, the irony is perfectly crushing. This is a person who prosecuted Trump for everything short of ripping a label off a mattress. And among the charges that were brought in New York, in not just the civil but the criminal case, was making false or misleading statements to financial institutions. And one of these sections, Section 1014 of the federal code, is prosecuted. It took me about 60 seconds of a search to find cases that the Department of Justice brought against people who falsely claimed that property was their principal residence in order to get loans. So this is well-tread areas for the Justice Department. As for James, if we apply the Leticia James standard that she created, there'd be little question here. This seems pretty straightforward. What the administration is saying is this was not her principal residence. In fact, as a New York elected official, she had to say that her principal residence was in New York. This was an out-of-state residence. But also, they claim that in some of these forms, she actually states that her father is her husband in order to file as a married couple. So there's a lot of those questions. And as you know, the Supreme Court just stated earlier in March in a case called Thompson that they want to see knowing false statements under sections like 1014, not just misleading statements. These are misleading statements. Either it's your principal residence or it's not.
Or it's not.
Either you're married to your father or he's your father. So
That's what you call projection, folks. When someone accuses you of exactly what they're doing, it's called projection. And that's exactly what Leticia James did. She tried to convict Trump of doing exactly what she did, and she's being investigated for. The irony is delicious, and Turley said it exactly right. Breaking news, Democrats continue to die on this hill defending an illegal immigrant who is a gang member and also a domestic abuser. Let's see Senator Van Hollen in his attempt to defend the character of Abrego Garcia in this charade made by Democrats.
I just landed at the airport in San Salvador a little while ago. I'm now en route into the city. After that, I hope to meet with some high-level government officials from El Salvador. As I've said before, the goal of my visit is to talk to people here about the release of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. And they are flouting the orders from the Federal District Court, the Fourth Circuit Court, and the Supreme Court to facilitate his return. That's why I traveled to El Salvador, leaving here on Wednesday. Of my staff who agree that we all must be prepared to take risks because of the current risk to our Constitution itself. I had two main goals. One was to urge the government of El Salvador not to be complicit in the illegal abduction and detention of Mr. Abrego Garcia and to release him. I made that request directly to the Vice President of El Salvador. The President was out of country at the time, and I've previously reported on that conversation.
What's worse, Van Hollen didn't even know who his wife was. Look at him look to the wrong direction when he does.
We're joined by his wife, Jennifer,
And it gets even worse when they try to defend it. Look at the CNN panelist getting schooled by Scott Jennings on the decision to defend Abrego Garcia against the actions taken against him. He is an illegal alien, was in the United States illegally, was given an order of deportation, and was also a gang member, so he got deported. But let's see them try to defend that. Watch this.
There's due process that exists in this country for everybody, and the fact that this man received no due process, he was effectively disappeared to a foreign country, a country which he came from, which he was basically got
It's not a foreign country. He lives there.
Excuse me, no, he does not live there.
He's a citizen of El Salvador.
Scott, excuse me, he got asylum in this country.
He's a citizen.
Scott,
does he have asylum?
Excuse me, let me finish.
No, he doesn't.
No, it's not that he.
Okay.
Sorry, it's not that he got asylum. He got a judge to say that he could not be rendered
Does he have
back.
a deportation order?
Excuse me, he could not be. Can you let me finish? He could He could not be rendered back to El Salvador because he was at risk of being harmed in El Salvador. That is what a federal judge. That is what a federal judge.
By who? No. Who was he at risk of?
Excuse me. That was what a federal judge said.
He
could not be deported.
Risk of being harmed by? I'm asking you.
Who could he be at risk by? I don't know. But
a rival gang.
No. Excuse me, Scott. Excuse me. Stop. Do you really believe that this guy's an MS-13 member? Because
I've got two heads of state telling me that they believe it.
Oh, okay. Your heads of state. Okay. Barack Obama said that.
And then look at the ridiculous double standard that Senator Van Hollen does or has with his constituents. He defends illegal aliens over the people that actually live in the state he represents. Let's see a pundit on CNN confront a left-leaning pundit about this very thing.
The point is that Van Hollen won't talk to the woman here who lost her daughter in Maryland, but he will go down to El Salvador to try to bring an MS-13 gang process back to America?
Really? It is disturbing that you are
sitting here. I think the Democrat Party's completely lost.
It is disturbing that you are sitting here defending.
When confronted about the domestic violence situation, Abrego Garcia's wife couldn't even defend him. Watch as she gets interrogated by Michael Strahan, and then look at her reaction.
You did take out a temporary order of protection against your husband in 2021. Were you in fear of your husband?
My husband is alive. That's all I can say.
Okay, and you know, I'm not going to push on that apparently. But
President Trump trolled the entire Abrego Garcia situation with a picture that showed the tattoos on his fingers of MS-13, which is MS-13, a gang that was deemed a that was deemed a foreign terrorist organization. He was deported for that, and for this article right here. In 2022, he had been caught for trafficking, and the FBI under Biden let him go. Two different presidents, two different rules of law. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if you find value from this video, please buy us a cup of coffee. We would deeply appreciate it. And for those on TikTok, please don't forget to like, follow, and add this video to your favorites. I would deeply appreciate it. The president of El Salvador, Bukele, has some choice words for those attempting to have the president of El Salvador report El Salvadorian back to the United States, which is ludicrous, by the way. Let's see what he had to say about it.
How can I smuggle a terrorist into the United States? I don't have the power to return him to the United States.
So you can release him inside El Salvador?
Yeah, but I'm not releasing, we're not very fond of releasing terrorists into our country. We just turned the murder capital of the world into the safest country of the Western Hemisphere, and you want us to go back into the releasing criminals so we can go back to being the murder capital of the world? No, that's not going to happen.
They'd love to have a criminal, released into our country.
There's a fascination.
They would love it.
Yeah.
And if they weren't tired of winning, Here goes another win for President Trump. In a recent poll conducted by CNN about immigration, it showed that overwhelmingly Americans are in favor of deporting illegal immigrants.
Why is Trump focusing on immigration? Let me just tell you, this is where Trump wants to focus. Pretty please, with a cherry on top. Why is that? Look at Trump's net approval rating on immigration. Compare where we are now, compare where we were at this point in his first term. In his first term, he was underwater at minus 12 points. Look at where he is today. He's actually above water. This is one of his strongest issues at plus 1 point. And more than that on the net approval for him on this issue has stayed steady in the positive. This is an area where Donald Trump wants to focus because the bottom line is this is an area in which the American people, at least the bare majority of them, seem to like what he's doing.
And you've shown the impact on how people feel about his handling of the economy and what he's been doing. So let's stay here with this. Compare where he is on immigration to where Biden was. We know that this was why he leaned into immigration so much.
Yes, this is a big reason why. So take a look here. This is on immigration. What track are we on? The right track or the wrong track? Look in December. Look at the percentage who said we were on the wrong track. 62% of Americans when Joe Biden was in office, compared to just 14% who said that we were on the right track. Flash forward to April. Well, hello. 45% say we're on the right track compared to 42% who say we're on the wrong track. So in a big switcheroo from where we were back in January, the plurality of Americans say that the country is on the right track when it comes to immigration policy. Back in December when Joe Biden was president, the vast majority said that we were on the wrong track. Again, this points out that on the whole, Americans like where we're going on immigration policy under Donald Trump. Deport all undocumented immigrants. Voters favoring the government trying to deport all 11 million of them. Back in 2016, just 38% of voters wanted the government to try to deport all 11 million undocumented immigrants. Compared to where we are in 2025, 56%, the majority, the American people have come a long way on this issue, much closer to Donald Trump. And I think that's a big part of the reason why Americans are increasingly saying the country is on the right track when it comes to immigration policy and why Donald Trump's net approval rating on that issue is in the positive. This should give you a very interesting look at where the public is, all right? Deport more immigrants here illegally. Well, not much of a surprise, Jake. 90% of Republicans agree with that. But look in the middle of the electorate. Look here. We get 61% of independents agreeing with it, the clear majority. And how about among Democrats? Even there, you get about a third of Democrats agreeing with the idea that we should deport more immigrants who are here illegally. So, yes, there is some specific issue polling which might not necessarily look great for Donald Trump, but when you look specifically at immigration and you dive into the crosstabs and you look at Democrats, independents, and Republicans, it's not much of a surprise that at this particular point in time, it is slight, but still the plurality of Americans give Donald Trump the thumbs up on immigration.
61% of independents speaks volumes. The people that are in the middle are in favor of Trump's stance on immigration, and even they want the illegals out. These people decide elections, and they're deciding with the President of the United States. President Trump is a champion for peace through strength. Even his closest allies know that he means that he wants diplomacy over war. That includes signaling to Israel not to attack Iran and potentially avoiding the start of World War III. Let's see what a journalist asked President Trump about this specific thing when it comes to Israel attacking Iran.
You waved off an Israeli attack on Iranian nuclear facilities. Can you comment on that? Is that accurate?
And they say the attack is what?
That you waved off an Israeli plan to attack Iranian nuclear facilities.
I wouldn't say waved off. I'm not in a rush to do it because I think that Iran has a chance to have a great country and to live happily without death. And I'd like to see that. That's my first option. If there's a second option, I think it would be very bad for Iran. And I think Iran is wanting to talk. I hope they're wanting to talk. It's going to be very good for them.
And to further prove my point, here goes an article by the New York Times confirming that very thing. He tried to deflect and say that he didn't wave it off in particular, but his voice rang bells when it came to Israel not attacking Iran. The president will prefer diplomacy over war. He's demonstrated that during his first term, and is continuing that same notion during a second term. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section below. Which brings me to the question of this video. How do you feel about Democrats lobbying for immigrants to stay in this country illegally, even though they have committed crimes and are a documented gang member and also a documented domestic abuser? How do you feel that they're protecting the interests of those people and not the interests of the American citizens? Let me know in the comment section below. That's it for the Vasquez Report. I'm Angel. See you next time.